guys, hello. So we are in a different place today, quite clearly. We are in my parents' kitchen. So we are visiting them in Birmingham on our way back north. So a lot of traveling to go, but while we're here, I brought in some ringers to show you a recipe today. This is my sister Olivia and my friend Tiffany. And we are going to show you how to make the elderberry syrup recipe that you have probably seen all over Facebook, all over YouTube, all over the internet. So if you wanted to know how to make your own elderberry syrup, watch the video, you're going to learn today. So Tiffany is the one that originally gave us this recipe. She told me about this, so I'm going to have her do most of the explaining, and Olivia and I are going to be her sous chefs, and then we're all going to get to customize our own syrup at the end, add whatever essential oils we want, and then we're going to get to take home our own jar of our unique blend that we have created in the kitchen today. So what was the reason behind trying the recipe in the first place?
My primary reason was for digestive health and for immune support. I knew that the cold and flu season was coming up, and I wanted to do a little extra effort in boosting my immune system to try not get sick this year. I work at a daycare, so germs are everywhere in my life.
So I didn't really realize even the digestive support properties, but then when I started looking at what was in the recipes, it makes total sense. Obviously immune support, which I think, Liv, is why you wanted to try it too. And then I also looked up some of the other elderberry properties, and it includes respiratory support, which makes a lot of sense in this cold and sinus season, and helping to regulate your blood pressure, a lot of blood flow things, especially when you add all of the spicy herbs and the spicy oils like cinnamon, clove, all that good stuff that we're going to have in here. So we're basically just going to get started and kind of show you how we do it as we go. So let's do this.
So we'll start off with the actual elderberries. I usually get this package just off of Amazon from Frontier Co-op. I've heard a lot of good things. This one is organic. They do offer both. I have personally chosen to add in fresh pomegranates as well. They're one of those superfoods that are awesome for you. And I will be adding the zest of an orange along with this as well. Adds extra flavor. Also boosts right in there with all of those other properties that are fabulous in the elderberry syrup. So we'll be adding some ginger, which is fabulous for your digestive system. And then we have our spices. We have our the whole allspice, we have whole cloves, and we will be adding some cinnamon stick as well. All of these go right along with immune support for this season that we're in. At the very end, we will also be adding some honey. I choose to go with the raw, unfiltered honey, so it has the pollen and everything in it as well. That helps with, allergy season and things like that also.
All right, so we got hands washed, hair up, and we're going to start this. We're going to measure out the regular, the amount you would do for one
single recipe.
One single recipe, and then we're actually going to make a whole big batch. So you can always easily double this, but.
Okay, so we're starting off with 1 cup dried elderberries into the pot.
And what kind of pot is this?
This is a pressure cooker. So I choose to use the pressure cooker because it greatly reduces the actual cook time. This will only cook for about 7 minutes in the pressure cooker. You can do it just in a saucepan. That will take 45 minutes, almost to an hour, to completely cook down and reduce into a syrup for that way. So second, we will be putting in 1 cup of pomegranates. Okay. These add a really nice tartness to it. The elderberries are remarkably bland and flat tasting. So the pomegranates, adding another citrusy type fruit to it really helps boost the flavor. Okay. So 1 cup of pomegranates in, just dump them straight in. So the next thing that we're going to do, we will go ahead and zest one of the oranges. See, this would be the moment where I wish I had the fruit and vegetable soak.
Yes.
From Young Living. I've never actually had an opportunity to use it, and here I am doing this. I'm like, man, that'd be a perfect opportunity. Okay, so now we'll go on to our dry spices. We'll do 2 cinnamon sticks, and we are actually going to lightly crush these things. I feel like it just releases more of the essence in the spices into the syrup. I actually do not have a mortar and pestle, so when I'm at home doing this, I have a fabulous rubber mallet, and I just put it between 2 paper towels so that it catches everything and hammer away. Except to not break my counter. Okay, so now we will do the clove, and we're going to do roughly 20.
Oh,
Yep, that's perfect. Okay, next we're going to use, again, roughly 40 of the whole allspice. This is just going to be a palmful. That's good. Yeah. So we're going to move on to the ginger, which will be our last ingredient to add to the crock pot. So, just the back of the spoon. And it just flecks the bark right off, and that shows that you're not actually losing any of the ginger by digging in with a grater. And then I usually try and slice it with the grain. It just cuts easier, I think. So I believe that has got all of our baseline ingredients. From here, we will just add 4 cups of water to the pot for boiling.
So because there's so much zest left on our zester, we're deciding just to pour through the zester, see if we can get some of that to loosen up and get in the pot.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that number 4?
That was 3. If the last one was 2, then that one was 3.
Okay. Now we are all set with 1 round of all of our ingredients. From here, you would just pop the lid on and cook it on high, under high pressure for about 7 minutes. So once it comes to a full boil and your pressure cooker actually, if you've got an old school one like this, once it actually starts the full pressure where the top of it's doing the jiggle, that's when you start your 7 minutes. If you're using a Instapot, I believe that it has settings so you can actually tell it the timer and how high. So from what I have read, most other people say that they actually set their Instapots on high for the high pressure. Okay, so we're adding the second round of ingredients for our double batch. And we decided after attempting to zest, we decided to try just peeling with a peeler and not cutting into the full rind. So all you're getting is essentially the same as the zest. It's just more chips off of the orange instead. And so far this is working significantly easier, much less effort and elbow grease in the process. I highly recommend doing it that way.
So this, you heat it with the stove?
Yeah.
It's not electric?
No, not this one. That's what an Instapot is.
Whoa.
We are serious old school. We are using a gas stove, a real flame, to heat the pot.
Okay.
All right, so once that starts to boil, and this pops up to seal it, then that starts my 7 minutes. So we see here how it's reconstituted the berries, and we've actually let it cool off enough that it's still warm, but it's manageable. We're not going to burn ourselves if it splashes or anything like that. I would recommend being very careful at this phase because this stuff will stain everything. Okay, so from here we're just going to scoop into our ladle and into the sieve. A lot of times I'll go ahead and scoop out the harder pieces like of the cinnamon just to get it out of the way. I'll periodically kind of scrape on the bottom because that's where you get a lot of the stuff that's being pressed through. That's where a lot of your extra fiber is going to stay with your syrup that helps with your, digestive health. So I personally prefer to let that stay with the syrup instead of extra straining to remove that. But you can strain it through a cheesecloth after this process if you prefer to have a completely clear, smooth syrup. Okay, so once I'm satisfied with that, I just dump it into an extra bowl, just out of the way. See, it's a nice, thick, so there's no liquid left. And then just repeat until the bowl is empty. So there is our end product. From here, the only other thing to add before we divide it into jars is going to be our honey. So honey can be added really just to your personal taste. Maybe just start with 1/4 of a cup. Taste that, see how it goes, and maybe add up to 1/2 cup. I typically use 1/2 cup personally. And like I said, I choose to use the raw honey that's unfiltered. It's particularly fabulous if you have a source of local honey, because local honey will have pollen and enzymes that are, natural in your area, which is an even greater boost to assisting with allergy benefits. So this one just came from the store though, this time. This does work best if it's still just a tad warm, just helps the honey mix in easier. But you don't want it still hot or boiling, because that'll actually end up breaking down the honey. And just stir, and then you're ready to divide it up into your cups. Your mason jars for canning.
This is my mom, by the way. Say hi.
Hi.
She's going to show us how to do the canning process.
So this will be necessary if you want to keep elderberry syrup like in your pantry for an extended period of time. This would be a necessary process to go through just to ensure that it will store well, that there won't be any bacteria growing in it and turn it nasty.
We washed the jars and the lids, and then we rinsed them out, and then put the jars in here with water. And you can look. I have them sitting upright down in the water, but not totally submerged. And
So this actually heats the jars so that any remaining bacteria from the jars themselves is killed off. And this also will aid in the sealing process once we put the liquid in.
you're going to grab a jar, and then actually, just to make sure there's no water down in it, I would take it to the sink and tilt it, get the water out, and then put it down here, and just have them all lined up ready. And then one by one, you're going to fill them. You just go to
that space.
leave a little space.
Okay.
And then you will put, these are the sealing lids right here. And I just kept them in hot water. So you take them out of there and put them on top of the small jar. And then put the ring on.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, and we've washed individual
all the
piece.
parts.
All the parts have been washed.
So then you put them back in the water and lower this down so they are actually submerged in the water.
Is it completely over the lid?
Mm-hmm. You want it to be over the lid at that point. And then you're going to boil the water, I'm going to say 10 minutes. I'm guessing for this. But then when you take them out and you just put them over here on the side, you'll begin to hear them pop, meaning that they're sealing.
So that's when the lid actually draws in, creating the seal. So it's as they cool, the natural process of the liquid shrinking inside pulls the seal. So that's completely sealed it, and it can last for years, as we've discovered this morning, with preserves from 2004.
Yeah. They were delicious.
Okay, and I do see that there is a little bit of liquid in the bottom. So I'm just going to come here to the sink to drain it out. And we'll just make wine.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're up for the filling process. I am going to give it just some good stirs just to really get, since we do have the silt in it, you want to make sure that it's all staying mixed up as you divvy it out into your jars.
I guess we didn't show them this on the thing either, but so there's this little magnetized stick that you can use, and that will keep you from having to get hot hands or potentially contaminating the top. So you're just reaching in there to grab the top, sticking it on, but then you got to figure out how to get it back off of there. Oh, that's good.
She actually put her finger on the top of it. We're trying to special it. No wonder she was magical.
So we made a double batch, but it made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these. Are these 8 ounce?
Yes, these are 8 ounce.
10 8-ounce jars plus enough still in here for Tiffany's jar that was almost empty. So we're going to fill that back up for her. I'm going to go ahead and say 11.
11. Yeah, I feel like that's probably another 8 ounces.
So
Easy.
I think, depending upon your ingredients, how much honey or how much water you started out with, maybe there's a lot of things that could go into making yours make a little bit more or less. But let's just say on average for a single one, you're thinking you're going to make 4 or 5 8-ounce jars. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So that's what you can assume that you'll be making. Now you could have larger jars, obviously. These are the kind of small jelly size. You could get, is it 12 ounce, 16 ounce?
You can get
12 ounce jars and you can fill them up. The nice thing about this and the whole canning process is that now you could go through this one jar at a time and the rest is sitting shelf stable on your, in your cabinet. So let's say you're using it only when you feel like you're going to get sick and you're only using it for support. Well, and you have a pretty good winter. Now you don't have a whole open jar. So I like the idea of starting with a smaller jar, and that way you're only opening what you need. So now we're going to get the rings and tighten down the rings on them so that we can put them back down in the water.
So now we lower all the way down into the water so that they are completely submerged. So this is with the jars already submerged. As you see, some of the air bubbles are releasing from the jar. And this is just as the liquid inside the jar expands, it is pushing that extra air out, which then is part of the process of creating the vacuum as it starts to cool. All right, so we have had this boiling for about 10 to 15 minutes now. I've just turned the heat off, so we're going to open it up and remove the bottles out just to let them sit. I have the wooden cutting board covered just with a cloth of any kind. That way it's not being sat directly on the countertop, which would damage the countertop as well. So here we go. Whew. So basically what we're waiting on at this point is that popping sound. So as they cool, it draws the suction on the inside and the top of the lids actually pull down and suck. So they'll pop like that. All right. So the final jar. So these are just going to sit here until they cool, and then we will do a little test on the top just to make sure that the tops don't still give, and then we will be good to go.
I think we both do these.
I did.
Thieves, Copaiba, Citrus Fresh, and Lemon.
Yeah,
I
don't think either of you
did those.
We both decided taste over healing properties. Is that what happened? I'm okay with that. Okay. So then what you would do is before you're going to use your, before you're going to use your elderberry syrup, you just do a little swirl like this to mix the oils before you get your tablespoon out of there. So basically now we have got 1 drop of 4 different essential oils. You could, if you were going to make your batch, you could just add essential oils to the whole thing. And I will actually I'm going to include the recipe on my blog, and I'll give you recommended amounts of the oils, because obviously it would be more if you were just going to put it into your whole batch and then divide them into the jars. And that way you can, maybe it's not 4 total per jar. You're getting a little bit of all of them in all of your jars. So that you can do it either way. Or if you want to have none in your jar and put a drop of these into your teaspoon or your tablespoon that you're going to take, you do you. That's it. That was a long day, a fun day. Obviously, If you're a DIY sort of a person, you will love this. If you're not a DIY sort of a person, you can get the elderberry syrup at the store and then add some of these essential oils when you're taking your tablespoon per day. Or you could find a friend like Tiffany that is making a bunch, or you could invite your friends over and you all get together and you make a bunch and you each take home one jar. I think that'd be a really fun way to do it. Do a fun like girls' night, and I'll end up with a jar of elderberry syrup. So when you make it, leave me a comment or send me an email. Tell me how it was. Did you have a fun experience, and are you enjoying your syrup? I would love to know. Make sure that if you enjoyed this video, you give it a thumbs up, that you subscribe to the channel, and that you leave a comment so that I know that you enjoyed this one and so that more people see videos like this. Thanks, guys. Share it with someone who could use it, and we'll see you next time. Bye. So stick it on good.
She's magic.
No leverage. Put it no. Leverage. Like a lever?
I'm trying.
Like, no, it doesn't work.
It's the magnet.
Oh, got it.
You're magical. How did